We do have a quick question, Carlos. Can you explain EFC again?
So go back to EFC.
Mm-hmm.
So EFC, it's a number that they're going to give you. It's the amount that your family, based on the information that you put on your FAFSA or your California Dream Act, that's the amount that your family is expected to contribute to your education. That's basically what the EFC is. It's a formula that they use, obviously, after you input all your information, depending on what the government considers you to be, in what tier, I guess. Most likely, put it this way. EFCs of 0, I've seen a family of like 5 with an income of like $50,000, and they still have an EFC of 0. So again, the lower the EFC number is, the less amount your family is expected to contribute to your education. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to pay this money. It just means they're offering you slightly less. So whatever that EFC and that need is, obviously, the cost of attendance, they're going to subtract the EFC. Whatever that need is, that's basically what you're going to be offered. So the higher your EFC is, most likely the less amount of money you're going to be offered.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that makes sense.
I believe it made sense to the person who asked. One more, like a follow-up to that. Let's say that there's been a change in your EFC. So like before, like you had a steady income, but then life happened, and then now that there's no income whatsoever, and like you have a 0 EFC, are the schools going to ask for like taxes or any sort of verification for the EFC?
To update the EFC, you pretty much have to submit an income appeal. So contacting the financial aid office at whatever college or institution you were applying to, submit an income appeal, just because obviously there's been that change of income. So the situation has changed from when you applied to financial aid to now. So once you submit that income appeal, obviously the income's going to change basically on your FAFSA. So your EFC should change, obviously affecting the cost of attendance and the need that they're going to, or the amount of money that they would offer you.
Gotcha.
So income appeal would definitely change the EFC, and then obviously change the financial need, which would change the amount of money being offered.
Got you. Thank you so much.
So going back to my scholarship little rant. So what I tell students, so obviously if it's $1,000 scholarship and they tell you write 2 pages, think of it this way: where else are they going to pay you $500 a page? It makes it a lot easier to write 2 pages when you're getting paid $500 a page, as opposed to I need to write 2 pages. And 2 pages is honestly nothing. I've had students say, I have a 2-page essay. I'm like, no, that's not a 2-page. That's not even an essay. That's almost like an introduction for a paper. So apply. You never know. There's scholarships for everything. Even if you don't qualify for the scholarships, I would still suggest that you apply. Cool thing about the majority of colleges and universities should have a scholarship center or scholarship office dedicated to help students with scholarships. At Cal State Long Beach, we have the Center for Scholarship Information. The cool thing about our campus is they have this data, or obviously like a database of scholarships. You submit your information, you basically submit one application, and then it dumps it into all the scholarships that you would qualify for. So you're submitting multiple scholarships just by applying to one. Some schools might have something similar, some schools might have something different. So it's just looking at their websites, looking at their Center for Scholarship Information, or whatever they're called at each institution, and they might have something similar and useful to kind of go with. Next thing that you would get offered would be grants. Grants is basically free money. Grants doesn't have to be paid back, usually awarded through the federal, state government, and do have some sort of income or GPA. So if you're looking at the Pell Grant, which is a federal grant, you're looking at the Cal Grant, which is Cal Grant A, Cal Grant B, or Cal Grant C, depending on GPA, depending on income, you might qualify for one or the other. So again, Cal Grants are state grants. The Cal Grant A, Cal Grant B usually pay the fees. So if you look at the tuition fees that I had earlier, which was like 6,800 ish for Cal State Long Beach. Cal Grant B would cover about 5,500 just because those are the fees that go with tuition. It doesn't cover full tuition just because it's tuition and fees. So it would cover the fees. And then obviously for privates, it can go up to $10,000. So it just depends on the income. And again, to qualify, they basically have a little chart here. Obviously, if your family is of 6 or more, you might have an income of 118,000 and still qualify for a Cal Grant A or C. So it just, again, everything's gonna depend on your family size, your parents' income, and then if you're working, the income that you're putting for yourself on your financial aid application, whether it's the FAFSA or the DREAM Act. And then obviously for Cal Grant A, you have to have a 3.0 or better to qualify for that one in high school. Cal Grant B, as long as you have a 2.0, you should qualify for that one. Questions so far?
I do have a question from somebody. They wanted to know about income appeals. When would be the best time to ask for an income appeal?
The sooner the better. So as long as your application's in the system, both obviously to the university and your either FAFSA or California DREAM Act, I would suggest contacting the university, especially if you know that's the university you want to go to.
Mhm.
Obviously, you might want to contact all of them just because you're at this point, admissions really haven't gone out, or admissions decisions haven't gone out.
Mhm.
So unless you have been admitted and you know you're going to that specific university, then yes, just contact that one. But other than that, I would contact each individual university just to make sure that you know what to submit and when to submit it by. Obviously, you would definitely want to submit it before financial aid packages go out, which are about June.
Okay.
They start going out for incoming freshmen. Just because incoming freshmen get packaged before returning students.
Got you. And then I have a bit of a follow-up for that. So let's say that a student has to submit an income appeal. How would the Cal Grant work with that? Like, let's say that before they submitted, before they have like a good income, but then they have to submit an income appeal. So like, would the Cal Grant be affected by any of
It
that?
should. It should. In the end, the university will contact whatever source of income or I guess source of aid is going to come, whether it's federal government or state government or state grants. So the university will update their information in their system, which would then update their packages.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Middle class scholarship. This is for students whose families make over, I believe, $125,000. Obviously some of the grants you might not qualify just because if your family is making over 125, your EFC is going to be pretty high. So what they did is they implemented this one. I want to say around 2014-ish, give or take a year or two. So they started offering students who would normally just get a loan offered a middle class scholarship. It doesn't cover obviously all of your tuition, all of your fees, because it goes up to 40% of tuition, but it's still something that's being offered to students who would normally not get, I guess, free money or free aid, Yeah, so and it's the same thing. So again, applying to FAFSA DREAM Act March 2nd, so that's how they would qualify. So instead of getting like a Cal Grant A, Cal Grant B, a Pell Grant, a state university grant, they might just get offered this depending on their EFC and their family income. So again, how does it fit in? If you're, again, this is kind of like a little breakdown of how to qualify, more or less what you would get. A Cal Grant B, you're looking at about $0 to $25,000. You might get a Cal Grant B. 0 to about 60, you can get a Cal Grant A or C. Anything above, usually 90. They have 90 on this one, but it's usually like 120. you most likely just will get a middle class scholarship and then maybe a loan or two offered. So just kind of like a little breakdown, more or less, family income, and then what more or less you might get offered. Pell Grants, federal money. So most likely for students who are U.S. citizens or residents, just because it's federal monies. So for students who are California Dream Act, this one would not, you would not be getting this one at all, just because it's federal money. And again, it's based on need, and they can give you up to almost 60, pretty much your whole tuition and fees. So 6,000 for a Cal State. So yeah, work study. Work study is another thing that might appear in your financial aid package. Obviously, it's information. It's free money, but you kind of have to work for it. That's basically what it is. So you're working while you're studying, most likely a job that's on campus. So it's like a grant, but you have to work for your money. So a lot of the like convenience stores, any offices. So like our office would get usually hires like 1 or 2 work study students. Things like the library, any other office on campus, they might hire work study students. So they're getting financial aid while working for it. Obviously, a lot of jobs on campus are a lot more flexible than, let's say, you're working at the local Target or the local Carl's Jr. or whatever. A job on campus would definitely be a lot more flexible with hours and schedules. And you know what, I have to take a day off because I have to work tomorrow, or I have to study for a test tomorrow. I might have to take a day off. I know for sure we are a lot more understanding of that than, let's say, your Target or your Carl's Jr., and you have to come in just because we don't have anybody else. And then wages are usually more than minimum. And it's a good way to network and get experience in an office setting for the most part. I'm not saying that, let's say, the convenience stores on campus aren't the worst jobs. It's just there's different experience that you can get throughout, I guess, looking for while working at on-campus jobs. So yeah, so there's experience that you can get, whether it's in an office, whether it's whoever you're working with. So yeah, questions on work study. And then for this one, you have to put that you're interested on the application. If you put no, or if you put maybe, or I don't know, there's only a certain amount of work study positions or work study, I guess, offers that are being made. So and then just because you put yes doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to offer you a work study.
I have a question. Someone was wondering, they heard a myth, I don't know if it's real or not, that work study is bad, something along the lines of that it might affect your financial aid. Can you debunk that myth? Or
Well, it's part of your financial aid. So how would it affect it if it's part of your financial aid?
right?
So usually, let's go back to the whole cost of attendance and need that they offer you. So if they're offering you, again, your cost of attendance is $25,000. They're offering you, let's say, a Pell Grant, which is $6,000, a state university grant, which is $6,000, subsidized, unsubsidized loan, which is usually combined, is about $5,000. So you're already looking at 17. To get to those 25, you still need 8. So whether it's going to be work study, which is usually like 3,000, obviously they're gonna tack on things that they need, because you can only get so many grants, you can only get so many loans. So they're gonna tack on different things like work study to get to that $25,000 if you have the full $25,000 need. So yeah, so it's not. I'm assuming that's they're thinking that just because, like, oh, I'm working, it's gonna affect my financial aid next year. It's income, but it's not income. It's like a grant. So obviously you can still do your taxes because you're still working, but when it comes down to it, it's they classify it slightly different. So obviously it's like a grant, but you have to work for it.
Got you. Thank you so much.
So it might be that where they're coming from. It's like, oh, I'm working, I'm getting income, so my financial aid is gonna affect it. In the end, the max they usually offer you for work study is about $3,000. anything over 10, 12, 15,000 might affect your financial aid. $3,000 would definitely not affect your financial aid. And even then, if you're only doing work study, yeah, you can do taxes, but you don't necessarily have to. You're required after, I think, 9,500. So anything under that, you don't technically have to file, so it wouldn't affect.
Great. Thank you for that.
Loans, usually the scary word that students and most parents kind of fear. Loans, obviously money that you're borrowing to pay for your school. It's money obviously that you have to pay back. You usually have to pay back 6 months after you graduate or you get kicked out, because it happens. But it's not required to be paid immediately. Some of the loans, which I have here, they're subsidized and unsubsidized. So some of the loans do get start accruing interest the minute you accept the loan and you say yes. Even though you still don't even have your money in your bank account, it's already gaining interest. There's other loans whose loan is frozen until you graduate, or basically 6 months after you graduate, and then it starts increasing the interest. So obviously the subsidized loans would be the ones that the government's paying while you're in school. So you're not, if you take out $2,000 by the time you only take out those $2,000, by the time you graduate, you only owe $2,000. Subsidized or unsubsidized, if you take out $2,000, depending on your interest and depending on the amount of time it takes for you to either finish school or get kicked out, hopefully finish school, you might owe, let's say, 2,300 or whatever, however much interest was accrued during the 4 or 5, hopefully not 6 or 7 years that you're in school. Yeah, so both loans have to be paid back. Usually they have pretty low rates compared to, let's say, like a bank loan or a private loan. And again, that's why we have that little thing at the bottom, beware of private loans, just because the interest is usually pretty high. So I would say if you're gonna take a loan, take it through the university. If you don't have to take a loan, then don't take it. Usually my suggestion to students is, if you don't need it, just leave it alone. Don't decline it, don't accept it, just leave it there just in case. It'll be backup money for whatever you might need it down the road. There's that pool of money. As long as you don't accept it, you're not accruing interest, so you're good. So it's still there. So yeah, parent loans. Obviously, those the subsidized, unsubsidized loans would be offered to you. There's other loans that if you still need more money to take out to be able to pay for school, your parents can actually take out a loan from the university as well. Again, unsubsidized loans. So obviously these are going to be gaining interest as soon as you take it out. And then you can pay back immediately. So they start charging you pretty much as soon as you take it out. And then loans are, I guess the rates are pretty low, kind of like the way they would give the student loans. Again, this is kind of like the way financial aid is packaged. So that you have your gift aid, which is the scholarships and grants. The gift aid is the money that you don't have to pay back. And then the self-help aid, which is the work study, you have to work for it. And then obviously loans, you have to pay back. If for some reason you are over awarded, let's say you have a need of 25,000 because your cost of attendance is 25,000, but then you get a $30,000 scholarship. The only thing that would show up on your account first would be that scholarship, just because they can't over award you. The max they can offer you would be those 25,000 that you have for need. So they'll take away grants, work study, and loans, but I guess it's weird the way they set up this pyramid, just because it should be the other way around. The first thing they take away would be the loans. To obviously to fill in the gaps, they take away the loans, and then the work study, and then the grants, and then obviously your scholarship money. But obviously your scholarship money is your money that you earn from outside, so they should give you the full amount. And then depending on how it's broken down, they might split it up between semesters or years. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know why it's upside down, which I should change that. How to keep your aid. Obviously, maintain your GPA, get your grades, have a passing rate. I was gonna say, don't have your parents earn more money than they normally do, but obviously that's something that we can't control. In the end, income might affect your aid. So if your parents for some reason win the lottery, get a better job, start getting more income, obviously that might affect your financial aid a little bit. Number of units affects your aid, whether you're going full time, so 12 units or more, you're going part time, you might get half of the income or half of the financial aid just because you're taking 11 units. So just take that extra unit, go full time, just to be able to get your full financial aid. Uh, and then financial aid is not forever. Federal funds have a max of 6 years. Um, so if you're planning on going to school for 10 years, and you know what, let the government keep sending you money, it doesn't last forever. Sorry to say. Tips. Obviously, when in doubt, ask for help. Just ask. There are always people who are willing to help. I always tell students, I can't help you if I don't know you need help. So that's one of the things that I always try to at least say once in my presentation or presentations, just because we're always afraid to ask for help. I don't know what it is about us, especially us Latinos. It's like we stick to our guns. And I can do it. I'll figure it out. I don't need help. It doesn't work that way. It might work to a certain extent, but when it comes to a lot of things, it's ask for help. There are always people willing to help. Obviously, every campus, every institution that you'd be applying to has a financial aid office with staff dedicated to help. But there might be other programs and other people, kind of like Alondra, obviously, myself, for our students, EOP, SSSP, different programs within each university that are willing to help. You just have to reach out and ask. Call a counselor or schedule a meeting. Obviously, again, once you receive your financial aid package, if you don't know what anything is, obviously you should know now. But if for some reason in the next couple months you get a financial aid package and you don't know what Cal Grant A is, or Cal Grant P, or State University Grant, or was it EOP, EAOPS, or whatever that other grant is called, contact the financial aid office at the university, and they can schedule an appointment with the financial aid counselor. Right now, it's even easier just because everybody's at home. So they'll send you a Zoom link, and then you'll be able to contact a person. You don't have to travel to the university. Sometimes it might be harder just because you live far from the university you're trying to go to. Right now, it's a little bit easier. So again, reach out, ask for help. That's like the main tip I could probably give you. Questions, comments, concerns.
Perhaps if any of our students today, any of our mentees have any questions, I'll give them some time, I guess, to think of something. Oh, okay. Maria has a question, and then I actually have a question for myself later.
Okay, so it's not a question, but it's a clarification. So basically, the Cal Grant reaches out to you if you qualify, right?
They will send you an email. So obviously, when you submit your FAFSA or your California Dream Act, that information gets sent not only to the federal government for the federal monies, but it also gets sent to CSAC, which is the California State Aid Commission, and they're the ones that award the Cal Grant. Okay. If you've submitted a California Dream Act or a FAFSA, you can actually log into the student aid website for CSAC, and it tells you what award you qualify for, whether it's a Cal Grant A, B, or C.
Okay, and let's say you don't qualify right now, but you may qualify this year, and you have to submit an income appeal. Will the university send you a message saying you apply after you submit an income appeal, or how would that work?
So once you submit the income appeal, the university would make the change in the system. So that they would basically go in and almost like update your FAFSA or your Dream Act application, and that way the information would be updated then.
Okay, so you don't fix your Cal Dream Act or FAFSA. They do it?
It should automatically be done.
Okay, thank you.
And then I realize I have the power to lower hands.
Does anyone else have another question? Okay, I actually have a question for myself. So now that I'm done with my undergrad, can I get financial aid for grad school when I go to grad school? Like,
Yeah.
government?
There should be aid. Again, it comes down to income, whether you're working, whether you should be considered independent, even if you're not 24.
Mhm.
So you should only be submitting your income. So depending on the school, some offer just loans,
Mhm.
but some offer like grants.
Got
So obviously it varies from person to person depending on what they submit on the application. But there is financial aid, whether it's loans or whether it's the occasional grant here and there.
Perfect. Thank you. Great. So any of our mentees, Nad, does anyone else have another question?
I am good.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
no one else has any other questions. I, again, would just like to give a little round of applause to Carlos for taking time out of a busy schedule that he has to come and talk with us today. I know that the mentees that are present and the mentees that will watch this later on are going to be very appreciative of all of the information that you've given us today. So thank you so much. And yeah, if anyone else has any questions, you guys are free to contact us. And then if it's like a financial aid question, we'll try our best to answer. If not, hopefully Carlos can share a little bit of his knowledge. Mm-hmm. There it is.
My
Here,
email's right there.
there it is. Yes. And yeah, so I'm gonna actually stop the recording.